This weekend is going to be absolutely wild. The amount of wrestling events happening this weekend is so exciting. So we have Anthony Ashnault wrestling Yanni Diakomihalis on Friday night. Then on Saturday, we're going to get Jordan Burroughs and David Taylor squaring off, plus some exciting wrestling duels happening on the horizon this weekend. So much to talk about in this video. Before I get into the actual looking at who's wrestling in some of these events, if you're just here to click on to find out how to watch these matches, I have links down in the description below that will take you to every single one of these exciting duel meets that you can watch. You can sign up to watch on FloWrestling or on ESPN Plus or wherever these matches are being held. I'll explain that as the video goes on. But first, we have to talk about this first event happening on Friday night. And the first event happening is the Spartan Combat Wrestling #1 event. And first off, I have to say is, seriously, congratulations to the Cornell wrestling staff, because the fact is they have some serious grit in determination in helping out their wrestlers. So obviously we know that the Cornell and the Ivy Leagues are not allowed to wrestle this season. So what did Cornell do? Cornell said, well, we're going to find another way around it. We're going to find some way to test our athletes to actually be able to compete this season. And kudos to all the Cornell guys who are able to stick around, because we're going to get some great matches. This is the main card happening on Friday night. That's Friday, January 8th at 5 o'clock p.m. You can watch this right on FloWrestling. Sign up for a FloWrestling account in order to watch this match. This weekend is really the weekend to sign up for FloWrestling, because not only do you have the entire college wrestling season coming up, but you also have these great events. So first off, the big main event is David Mcfadden and Kyle Dake. That's not the match I'm most excited for. I'm excited to watch Kyle Dake compete because, it's Kyle Dake. He's fresh off that Chamizo win in this past year. But the match I'm super excited for is what Flo's calling the Battle of the NCAA Champs. Yanni versus Ashnault. Man, this is going to be great. It's going to be a great match. Now, full disclosure, I think Yanni's going to be able to take it to Ashnault, but both have wrestled in Flow events in the past year. Yanni wrestled at Beat the Streets as well as the RTC Cup, where he's able to get a couple nice wins, including over James Green. Ashnault wrestled in the Flow 8-man bracket. And now, Ashnault has a little bit of a size advantage on Yanni, but I don't know how much. Both of these guys have had international success. They won the Pan American Gold in 2020. These are two outstanding, stellar competitors. Ashnault was going to bring it against Yanni, but I don't know if he's going to be able to end up beating him. We also have Gabe Dean wrestling Mike Machiavello, and then Ben Darmstadt, Max Dean, and some other younger Cornell guys we're going to see in the lineup. And then don't lose hope just yet on the weekend, because it's just getting started. Jordan Burroughs and David Taylor this Saturday, January 9th at 8 o'clock p.m. Again, live on FloWrestling. I will be watching. Super stoked to be watching this. But what are some of the matchups that we're going to be getting in this event, in this card? So this event has really been leading up to, we've been leading up to this event for months with so many of these great matches. But obviously JB and DT is the main event, and they've been trash talking each other for months, getting fans and wrestling fans excited for this event. You see me with my Nebraska hat on right now, my Huskers hat, obviously for not only Jordan Burroughs, but also for Nebraska, who is competing this weekend against Minnesota. But we have This is an exciting card. First off, I have to say Nate Jackson and Win Mahalik. I'm super excited to see Win compete, because he, as a part of the Campbell coaching staff, now he's a senior national champion, I believe, back in 2015. And he's just returning to the mat for the first time since 2015. And that's actually a couple of these guys. You see another guy on this card is Matt McDonough competing against Ethan Lezak. That should be interesting. The first time McDonough has competed in quite some time as well. It's kind of cool to see these guys come back to these FloWrestling events to actually compete, because a lot of these guys have, they're training in the room, they're coaching, they're doing that stuff, but they haven't actually hit the competition mat in quite some time. So that's some of the stuff we're seeing there. With Nashawn Garrett going up against Joey McKenna, with Nashawn bumping up, and McKenna was somebody who was supposed to wrestle last month in Flo's bracket, but was not able to wrestle due to injury, due to other reasons. We've seen in a lot of these events, we've seen guys that were supposed to be in it, then had to pull out, and there were different things going on there, which, with everything going on with the virus going around, you don't know how guys are, how they're sick or not sick or what's going on, as well as, in injury. It's an injury-prone sport, so it's bound to happen. But who else is wrestling this card? Who else? This is really some of the main events here. James Green and Pat Lugo, they're two guys who we seem to always see in these big wrestling events in the past year, and they're just continuing to grow their own brand in getting better and better competition. Jaden Cox hitting the mat. He's somebody who hasn't hit the mat since the early last year, an exciting competitor all the time. Adeline Gray and Tamira Mensah-Stock, two world champions, women's match, which it's just before the main event in JB versus DT, and there's going to be some fireworks in that match. I can tell you that right now. And then Jordan Burroughs and David Taylor. So, I've already talked about the trash talk between these two, which, for me, I don't really love the trash talk. I know other people like it. I don't really like it. That's just not who I am. I'm more about let's watch these two compete. Let's do the trash talking on the mat, right? So Burroughs these two guys are the faces of wrestling right now. I would argue that Burroughs is more the face of wrestling, of USA wrestling right now in our sport. David Taylor is almost right there with him. Both these guys world champs. Burroughs competing a little bit more internationally, has a couple more world titles, has that Olympic gold medal under his belt, and so now that he's bumping up to wrestle David Taylor, how is that going to work out? Burroughs is 4-0 against David Taylor, so he's undefeated against David Taylor. Can Taylor actually pull something off here? Now that David Taylor, the last time these two wrestled, David Taylor just looks like he's grown leaps and bounds, not only his wrestling, but just how he's built. And I'm looking to see what he can bring to the table now this time around. I'm fully expecting a different match than the ones that we've got before. My money's on David Taylor in this match, but I would still be excited if Jordan Burroughs won. Please let me know. Leave a comment below before I get into these dual meet matches for this weekend. Who do you think is going to win the Jordan Burroughs and David Taylor match? So now let's talk about the dual meets this weekend. Some exciting ones, some ranked dual meet opponents going up against each other, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to get every single one of these dual meets. With a lot of the postponements that have been happening, we don't always know what we're going to get, but App State and NC State Wrestling Friday, that's a North Carolina in-state duel. I think NC State's just going to run right through App State, but it's still cool to see those type of matches, and with a smaller school like an App State compared to an NC State, it'll be interesting to see. It's always interesting to see if they can pull off an upset or two. I don't count on it, but we could see that happening. Central Michigan and Missouri is actually, looking at that match and look at the matchups there, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an upset from potentially. Maybe I would. Maybe a couple upsets. I don't necessarily know that the whole duel would be upset. I think Missouri is a better team, but heavyweight, with Matt Stencil and Elam at heavyweight, interesting matchup. Simon and Hart at 141 should be another interesting matchup. Two ranked matchups here. We have Arizona State and Oklahoma wrestling on Friday. Top 15 battle between Justin Thomas and Ja'Cory Teamer. As well as the one interesting lineup note is Anthony Valencia back down at 165 pounds. So we'll see how he does at that weight this season. I'm willing to bet he's going to have a pretty solid season. Woodley and Norfleet. I know Norfleet has been on a lot of people's radars last year, especially to do well at the national tournament, and I think we're only going to see him continue that into this season. And the one dual meet, before we get into two exciting Big Ten ones, Pitt and Lehigh. This is a number 17 Lehigh versus number 13 Pitt happening on Saturday at 5 p.m. Mickey Philippi and Peitzel Wrestling, that's a top 10 matchup. And listen, on paper, and I know I'm just kind of going through some of these matchups because pretty fast because I'm just trying to give you some of the ideas of who's wrestling. But Pitt looks like the better team here, but this is a duel that I would not be surprised if Lehigh could upset Pitt. And they're right in that range where Lehigh has a pretty darn solid team. Pitt does as well, but where the matchups kind of line up, we could see our first, major upset of the year, if you want to call it that. I guess it depends how you consider a major upset, but I think this could be a big upset to start off the season with in a Pennsylvania matchup. In Big Ten, Michigan and Rutgers wrestling on Friday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We could have seen Suriano and Micic. Right now, Suriano is not listed on the Rutgers potential lineup, but really those potential lineups that they post on their own sites, those don't hold a lot of weight a lot of times. So maybe we see Suriano. I doubt it, but I mean, you never know. Maybe Rutgers pulls out Suriano and he's back and he comes out against Micic. He gets a big win or at least a big match. Maybe that's the time that we see what happens with Suriano this weekend. Medley and Aguilar at 125. If that we don't, or if Suriano isn't down at 25, because that's the other thing. Is Suriano down at 25? Is he at 133? I don't know. Nobody really knows. And then Minnesota versus Nebraska. Of course, the Cornhuskers got the hat on right here. It is one of my, honestly, new favorite teams I've been excited to watch. Another one on my list has been NC State. Just been super excited to watch them in the past season and compete here. Minnesota and Nebraska should be an exciting one at Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it'll be great to see some Big Ten action back in style. Big Ten wrestling's back, college wrestling's back, and with the amount of great new cards that we have going on from FloWrestling, it's just going to be a solid weekend of wrestling. So please let me know which match you are most looking forward to this weekend. For me, honestly, it is the Jordan Burroughs versus David Taylor match. I cannot wait to see what happens there and discuss that with you next week.